Hey, junkies! Happy New Year! Hope everybody had a safe and healthy one. Here we go, first video of the new year, guys. What we got here is a 2015 Honda Civic flood car. Guys, please stay away from flood cars. Customer bought this car after Ida hit New York. That was like September 2nd. They paid $4,000 for this car and they tried to get it going themselves. This car is now junk. Flood cars are a pain in the ass. Let me explain. So all floods aren't the same. You know, some cars, I mean, I'm not saying buying a flood car could be a bad investment. You know, there are flood cars that you can buy and, you know, make money on and get a good deal. But, you know, first you have to understand the different types of floods. You know, you have saltwater floods and freshwater floods. Saltwater floods I would just avoid altogether if you're buying a car to try to fix for yourself. Because unless you dry everything out, and I mean, I'm talking about unplugging everything and cleaning out the connections, eventually down the road, that salt that's there, it's going to corrode, and you're going to start getting lights that pop up on the dashboard and all sorts of things. You know, and then like this Civic here, this guy bought, this is a freshwater flood because that was Storm Ida, and it wasn't like coastal flooding or anything. It was heavy rainfall and flooding that came. Now, you know, if you want to buy a flood car, it's something you need to inspect. And, you know, a lot of cars, like people buy cars on Copart, and you're buying online or IAA, and you can't really inspect the car anymore. Years ago, you know, 20, 30 years ago, we used to be able to go to the auction and see the cars, even less than 10 years ago. I don't know if you still can at Copart. But the trick is to getting a deal on a flood car, is to get a flood car that's not so bad. Like, if you have a car that the water just kind of filled the footwells, you're fine, you're okay there, you know, because you really didn't make it any high enough, you know, to hit any of the computers in the dashboard or in the, you know, in the side kick panels. You know, a lot of the newer cars do have computers under the seats and seat relays and stuff, and you may have to change the seats, but these cars, overall, you can get away with. But if you have a flood car that it made it above the seat cushion, I would just stay away from. Again, not saying, you know, it's not something that's impossible to do, but it's just a lot of problems. You know, once it gets above the seat cushion, you know, you've got computers that are in the, you know, underneath the shifter. You have the airbag computers, you have some transmission computers, you have computers in the kick panels now, some of the fuse boxes, that all got wet. If that all got wet, it's nothing but trouble. I mean, you really need to dry these cars out. So, you know, flood cars, I don't like. It's a lot of work. I mean, not telling you not to do it, not saying it's impossible, not saying you can't get deals, but it's something you really need to look at and to know how bad the car is. You know, like this Civic definitely is no longer ever hitting the road again. It's never going to run properly. It's never going to drive properly, you know. But let's go out there. I'm going to walk around the car. I'm going to show you all the different things that need to be done to maybe bring this car back to life if someone tried, but it's not going to. So I'm going to show you the problems with it, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here's where we are. Now this guy bought this car and he already drained the fluids out because there was water in the oil. It was creamy and milky. He did that. As you can see, he unbolted the coils. He tried to dry them out. He tried to get the car running. It just wouldn't run. Now it's 4 months later and it's just wasted. You know, it's not just a matter now of changing the oil and trying to get it all back together. Now you've got all the solenoids and all the little switches and hydro switches and things that need to be changed. Now, I know some are saying, well, you can take the motor out and rebuild it. Yeah, you can take the motor out, rebuild it. Do the same thing with the tranny, change the sensors and the solenoids and, you know, the shift solenoids and all that and put new ones in. That's all fine and well, but now when you put it all back in, you still have a wire harness to deal with. You still have a fuse box that is now corroding. The wire harness and connections that are corroding. You've got the computers that may be no good. Now this was I think a fairly deep flood because the seats, I mean, are all mildewy. Obviously it sat with the doors closed. So this flood was pretty high. I mean, you can see the marks, the dirt and the dust that came up to over the door handle here. So, I mean, after sitting for months, now you've got the dashboard, you've got the radio. Even if the radio didn't get wet, you know, there's still moisture in the car and it's on all the connections, the airbag connectors. I mean, water now, it's just corroding. The dampness in the car has really just ruined this. It's been sitting too long. It's a lot of work, guys. It's a lot of work to buy a flood car. Now, parts-wise, this car to me is almost wasted as well. I mean, aside from the sheet metal and like this right headlight, you've got a left headlight that I need to discount because it needs to be dried out. You've got the doors that are good, but it's possible that the window regulators are no good because, again, they're electric and there's an electric motor, and the connections could be bad or corroded, and that needs to be changed, so we have to discount that. I would just avoid floods, guys. I mean, if you could. Again, I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just a lot of work, and I know sometimes the deal looks really good, but there's a lot more than just draining the fluid and draining the oil. Take it from Junkman. Buy a collision car. It's a lot easier to change 2 doors in the center post than to change an entire wire harness in a car and rebuild a motor and tranny. Well, guys, have a great one. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you soon.